Hello and welcome to episode 18 of Think Big with Michael Zellner. All positive, no politics. My guest today is Jeff Fioranelli. Jeff is the co-owner of Buckley's Grill and Buckley's Lunchbox with Ken Dick. And Jeff and Ken actually started Buckley's about 28 and a half years ago and have turned it into one of the most popular and successful restaurants in the Memphis area. Welcome to the show, Jeff.
Thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. So tell us something interesting about yourself that most people don't know.
Okay. I knew this question was coming, so I asked my wife and I said, hey, give me your thoughts. And so I've got one that I'm proud of and one that's just is what it is. The one I'm proud of is a life change I put myself through about 25 years ago when I was struggling with my weight. And I started walking and eventually got up to now for the past 25 years, I've run 7 miles a day, same route every day, maybe missing a day a month. I tell people it's one healthy addiction to counter a couple of unhealthy ones. So I love to eat. I love to socialize, love my margaritas. So this is a nice balance and gives me time for a mental break, helps me think, of course, listen to podcasts, and puts things in perspective for an hour plus a day. So, and then the other one that's just a quirk is that she suggested I share is that you may not know it because when you're in the restaurant, you're in my house, but outside of the restaurant, I am somewhat of an agoraphobe, and I have pretty serious social anxiety, and that can be whether I'm in a room with 50 strangers or at a wedding with 200 friends. Interesting is what it is. It's something I've battled all my adult life. So there you go.
Well, that's awesome. Thanks for sharing both of those with us. As I mentioned, you guys opened up Buckley's 28 and a half years ago in January of 94. You and Ken had known each other since the 8th grade. And you said that you always knew that, you didn't want to interview for jobs and you wanted to go in the business together. You couldn't get a loan from a bank and you were only able to open because you guys had some savings and then you took some loans out from some of your family.
Yes.
Being a business owner is really exciting, but I know from personal experience that sometimes things don't always go as, what we hoped and planned for. Just 6 months after you guys opened, we're $70,000 in the hole. And, I talk about the power of a moment and that happened for you guys when Frederick Copel wrote a really glowing review of you guys. He was the food critic for the Commercial Appeal at the time. And he talked about, how wonderful the restaurant was. How did that moment, that review change everything for you guys?
The review, along with the advice from our accountant after we were about 6 months in and we met and we were exactly where you said we were. And our accountant said, guys, time to play ball. And right about that time, we started making some drastic changes and the stars aligned and Frederick was very good to us. And it did help us turn a corner for sure. We were back to zero probably within a year. So it was a long process to get there. And once we got there, and of course, the whole thing has been a learning experience, even today. I mean, we're almost 30 years in this thing, and we learn something new every day. We have to adapt. We have to, especially the last couple of years. Good grief. But yeah, that definitely pushed us. I have to give him some gratitude for that, and also from our accountant who helped guide us into what bills to pay that day, what bills to put off, what expenses to cut, where we were bleeding, where we were succeeding. All that was just kind of all came together at the same time. Yeah.
And looking back on things like that, you're like so thankful that you had a good accountant that was able to guide you the right way. Because 6 months more of that, it probably would have maybe been a lot different.
Yeah, and we knew, hey, if we fail, we still owe this. We still got to pay all our people back. We're going to have to go get jobs, and we're not going to leave anybody in the lurch. We're going to make good, and that's just how we operate.
Right. Well, and thankfully it turned out the way it did, and obviously it's very thriving today. And the food, if you haven't been there, God, you got to go there. The food is just amazing.
Appreciate that, man. You've been a great customer for so long and friend, and thank you for sharing us like you do all the time.
Oh, absolutely. Share the pause, man. Share the pause. You and Ken busted your butts from the very beginning. One of you was in the kitchen. One of you was at the front door. You guys promoted your business really hard. You went door to door, passing out menus. You got a warning.
Story.
Yeah, you got a warning from the post office.
We did.
That's pretty hilarious.
We got some post office hate mail because we would going through our neighborhoods and putting out flyers. Yeah,
whatever it takes. But that awesome work ethic, started obviously at the beginning and it continues today. How important has that work ethic been to your success?
I mean, you just do what you got to do, and the last couple of years has really changed. I've actually closed one restaurant permanently, the Lunchbox, which I was there for 20 years, 4 a.m., 3 p.m., catering, doing lunch service, takeout, and the work ethic is kind of just it's ingrained in both of us, and I've kind of enjoyed being back in my dinner restaurant like I am. I don't miss nights. I didn't do nights for 15, 17 years, but I've kind of enjoyed back in there. I liken it to theater, and I've done that since we first opened. You got a stage. The lights got to be right. The music's got to be right. Your production crew is your kitchen. Your actors are your servers. The place has to be clean. You've got to have the script, and it is. And when the lights go up, you got to be on. You got to be 110% on. And that is not work most of the time. It's actually I love the social aspect is what I love. It's like I said, when you're in my restaurant, you're in my house, and you will be treated as such. If you deserve such, which we've had so many loyal customers for so long, it's mostly fun. Some of the more difficult parts, customers are great. Sometimes staff issues, or that's really more difficult to deal, especially since COVID. I still have probably 20% of my staff has still been with me for 20 years. The ones that lasted through, I had one dear friend, coworker pass, we very low turnover.
Yeah, Leo's been awesome to me all these years.
I appreciate it, man. I think if you hire, you got to hire better. You got to ask the right questions, figure out if the person is a fit. And then in the last few years, it's been a lot more difficult because the hiring pool has totally flipped. So, excuse me.
It's okay.
But yeah, most of the time it's putting on a show. It's like, and it's fun, and I get compensated to make people happy. I mean, how many people can say that? Does the Undertaker get people happy? No, he gets paid to comfort people, and I'm sure he gets something out of that. But I get paid to make memories, make people smile, satisfy their needs, and that's my life's calling. Whether maybe in this business in 10 years it may not be, but it's my life's calling for me is that.
Failure is such a big part of success. And I believe that, we learn from our failures in life, as well as you guys have done. There's been a few things, that y'all did that didn't work out long-term. The restaurants that you guys opened downtown in Cordova had some challenges and ultimately you closed them. And then you talk about how, the Lunchbox just got closed. And I think obviously that probably was from COVID, the reason why that happened. What have you learned from those experiences of failure that have led you to more success?
I'll give you a little background on so we opened the first store. We opened Buckley's, the original, the old Dairy Queen. And then I wanted to go I bought into that whole downtown thing early. The opportunity came up. We went down there. We were there for 9 years, so I
Right.
wouldn't as a failure. And
Right.
we made enough money to go open the lunchbox. Actually, it was the grill, then the lunch. I don't remember exactly. It's almost 30 years in, but we made enough money we opened the lunchbox and we went downtown and we made enough money to go open in Cordova. So I wouldn't really call it a failure. When '08 hit, Cordova was doing fine. I hit 40 years old and we were trying to run 3 restaurants. If there's any failure, I would offer that he and I proved to ourselves that 3 was one too many.
Right.
And we had opened Cordova. The other mistake we made there was we opened it so close to my Poplar location that it was, and Poplar, we have people that still drive from Mississippi, they drive from Arlington, they drive from Eads, Oakland, West Memphis, Marion, so we diluted that by opening Cordova. And then when '08 hit and I turned 40 and I was just like, you know what, this is not worth it. I have no life. The economy was taking a beating. And so we basically just said, you know what, we got an offer from Panera Bread and we took it. And when that went through, my life improved so much just because I was able to have a life again, which I had not had, for so long. So I'm kind of, for me, and with the lunchbox, man, COVID has been horrible, but at the same time, in that time, I got married and I am working fewer hours, and I'm 53, and I'm the age that my father passed. So put that in perspective, and I don't know. I'm content. I want the lunchbox to be the place. I don't want to try to reopen that place with new staff, 30% higher food costs than we had 2 years ago, a decimated catering business that will not come back with the volume that I was doing. I would rather close it and be on that commercial appeal list one day of restaurants we miss, or
Right.
that place was so good. I will not wake up to social media saying, man, they reopened and it's
Right.
crap. I'm not going to put my name on it. So, because I would go back to 80+ hour work weeks, and I'm ready to just live a little, live more.
Right. So they were good kind of failures, in a way. If you look at it, I believe that a lot of things happen for a reason. And in some of the instances, those challenges led you to realize that I don't want to do this. I don't want this to be my entire life. That, I deserve to have a life outside of this.
Most definitely. I'm done living to work.
Right.
I lived till I was 40, wondering if I was going to make it to 53. And when I made it to 53, that was another turning point. 40 was kind of a turning point. I went from being I made a personal change in my life. And then when I hit 53, I thought, oh my God, I've spent all this time worrying about living to my father's age. What was I worried about? I should just be,
right.
Should just be living. And that's what we're doing.
A lot of people don't know why you opened up the second location there on, Poplar at Yates for the lunchbox. I think y'all opened up in, I want to say 2001, and they don't know why it was separated. And, the story is that you guys actually, when you signed the lease in '94 to open up, like you talked about the old Dairy Queen, which I remember going there as a little kid, the doctor's office behind there would not allow you. The deal was that I think that you guys couldn't be open during the day because they were afraid you were going to take up their parking space. And that actually is the doctor I went to, as many people as a kid, Dr. Steele, Dr. Parker.
Oh, they were so,
yeah.
And let me put it this way. They really offered us grace with the contract, saying we could use their parking after 4. and not before. And that I wouldn't call it not allow. I call they offered us grace, gave us an opportunity, and I'm so grateful. And all those doctors over there were fantastic. And so so we felt a need. People were like, "Y'all got to open for lunch, and that space that the lunchbox has been in was up, and we had employees that wanted to work. They were like, well, if they're going to go work day jobs and they're so great, let's just find a way for them to work, for the same company, work for us,
Right.
and we'll create opportunity for everybody. We did that. Ken and I and a guy named Johnny Budlong, a friend of ours, basically about built that place out ourselves from what it was previous cafe. I forget what it's called now. So we did all the carpentry and did all the work and rearranged everything, and we opened, and we were just not doing the numbers in the first 3 months that we needed to do to meet our expenses. So that's when Ken said, "Hey, let's think about catering." Something we'd never done. We thought, well, let's give it a whirl. So the catering would go on, and then we also rented out the place at night for private events, for private dinners. We got into that. We started trying to use as much of the time as we could
Sure.
to make that rent. But the catering would grow exponentially quickly, and by the time we were a couple years in, it was counting for probably 70% of our sales. And because the lunch hour is only the lunch hour.
Right.
It's 11 to 2 if you're lucky, so the lunchbox did very, very well. And I tell people that, that was my baby of course, we both worked on it.
Sure.
I'm in it. Ken does all the outside, does all the marketing, the database, he does so much. It's just, I happen to be the face of the place,
Sure.
and doing the, I'm, as I say it, in the trenches.
Right.
And I always tell people working there was so much fun because you see the same faces every day, the same servers. What the customer wants 80% of the time before he wants a sweet half and half tea, with the Bourbon Street chicken,
Right.
with green beans, and they rarely deviated. And I told them I've never worked at a country club, but it had to be like that because we were serving business people, lawyers, retirees primarily. Of course, we'd serve anybody.
Right.
It's not, you come in overalls and you come in a suit, you got a seat at my table. I met so many great people and made so many great relationships in that business. And that's the one thing that I tell everybody who comes in and sees me at the grill is I miss you. I miss my guests. I made a lot of friends and met a lot of great people through the lunchbox.
And that's what it's about. It's all about relationships with people.
Agreed.
Shortly after you opened up Buckley's in 95, you had a statue of your likeness at that time made for you by a really well-known sculptor. And you said the statue had a, quote, painted on smile and was depressed. Not long after it was done, you made the decision to go after all your fears, your addictions to food, your demons that you had at that time. You said it was a statue of personal struggle. What happened to make you make some of those changes and push you to do all that and find your true self again?
Man, you are really digging deep. You've done your homework. And this is going to be personal, but I went in the restaurant business. I had struggled with my weight, up, down, up, down. You and I have so much in common. I'm
Right.
telling you, we both know that, and so much in common. When I made the decision, I'm working 80 hours a week. We're losing money. I'm eating. I'm cooking, eating on the line. We're going out after to a late night to Half Shell or Belmont or whatever, eating and drinking again and whatever. And I woke up one day and I said, "Hey, this is not working. This is not me." That's when I decided to make that physical change. The problem with the physical change is, while I got some self-esteem back and I felt better, there's also elements of it that were detrimental, in that I became a selfish person. I did some people wrong. I for selfish reasons. It's like I was making up for lost time. There was a life there for me that was pretty empty. I was getting what I wanted, and I was hurting some folks in the process. If I could take it back, I swear to God I would. And then I had a brief marriage. That is what it is. I came out of that, and I kind of just had an epiphany. And I'm like, God, this is not all about me. This is about affecting change for other people in a good way, which I've tried to do. I kind of just flipped my own script, I guess. I went, we've all had probably very dark thoughts about what we, especially when you're struggling mentally, physically, and your therapy is a tub of ice cream or a pizza,
right,
or alcohol, or whatever drug you might choose. And there was a lot of that, and I just finally, after I got free, like I said, about the time, a little bit before I hit 40, I don't know, I can't put it on one thing except, hard to say. I don't know what flipped it. I think I just knew that the way I was doing it up to now, and spending my whole life up to that point, living for me, was just not the way to continue. It's worked out tremendously. Thank goodness.
Absolutely. Yeah. You come from a big family. I believe there's 6 kids, if I'm right, and that your parents had to put up with 6.
Yes, the Italian Brady, 3 boys, 3 girls.
You lost your dad on September 23rd, 1989, when your father was only 53, as you mentioned, and you were only just about 20 years old. You said the two of you were just evolving from, being father and son to actually becoming friends. You call your father, quote, an Italian-American badass, and the kindest and most generous man you've ever known. You said, quote, I can sing this song, and you can sing this song when I'm gone. You were gone way too soon, and I still sing the song, but listening to you sing it made it my favorite, and I always sing it missing you. What song was that?
That is a song by James Taylor called "You Can Close Your Eyes." And here we go again. Every time I hear it to this day, it's like he's singing it to me. Yeah. I think a lot of the other reasons for some of my behavior back then was I was so angry. I was so bitter and so angry, and I needed someone to blame, be it God or be it whatever, because it was so sudden, and it was just totally flipped my life upside down. And when I say we were just becoming friends, I mean, yeah, we were finally just starting to hang out, have a beer together. I was becoming an adult, and he was becoming, and he was just starting to live his good life, because all he did, he was a doctor. He was great to his patients, not always so great to himself. Kind of
just like my dad, same way.
Like you put on that show all night long, and sometimes you go home at night and you just go, gosh damn, I'm beat, I'm beat, and I think he was that way quite a bit. And in the last few years of his life, he began to unwind, relax, spend some of that money. He was such a miser, and he did really well, starting to travel, and he and my mom were beginning a good life. And then there goes the carpet. Bam, there goes the carpet. I get woken up on a Saturday. I'm living in the Pike House, and I wake up to, 7 messages from my mother that I did not hear, begging me to pick up the phone, begging me, crying, I need you, And by the time I got those messages, it was too late. They were at the hospital, yeah. So I was really, really angry. I'm still got a little of it, but I'd rather take his legacy and expound on it than continue to just be bitter and angry at the stars or the universe or whatever you believe in. It's unproductive. It's unproductive time. It's leads to bad behavior, as I've shared. Much better. It's much better to try to fill his shoes than to live the way I was. So,
like you, I was very blessed to have, two wonderful parents that were very supportive of me. Even maybe sometimes when I didn't deserve it, they were still supportive of me and were my biggest fans, and my mom still is. You called your dad your hero. My dad was my hero too. You said, quote, "If you had not died being my hero, you would not still be living in my dreams." You said that your dad was really matter of fact, yet compassionate to his friends, family, patients. And I believe Ray J was the director of the radiology at Baptist East. And obviously, with everything you shared about him, like you said, he had a great bedside manner with his patients, because you don't get to be that successful and people like you as a doctor unless you have a good bedside manner. My dad did too. And just like you said, it was detrimental. He didn't take care of himself, but he did take care of his patients and his family. I fully believe 1,000% that our loved ones, their spirits and their souls are always around us. They see what's going on in our lives. And there's many hints that they leave that we just have to pick up on, including, like you meant, talking to us in our dreams, which you've talked about. I know your dad has to be so super proud of you for the person that you are. You said he was brilliant and humble, and you often imagine where your friendship would be today, but I'm sure you probably know where it would be today, don't you?
Oh, certainly. He even with him not here, I'd like to think that his legacy eventually came around to have a profound effect on me. Once I got to, and you probably hear it too, when anywhere you go and you still hear stories about your dad, and your customers are saying, "Oh, I worked with your dad," or "Oh, I was a patient, and oh, he was the best," and "Oh my God," and "God took him too soon," and so and so and so, and I still hear it, and I hear it all the time from customers or people I'll see at TJ Maxx or Kroger, and it was on me to realize that I would rather, I don't want to, when I'm gone, it's not going to be the watch I wear or the car that's in my driveway or whatever. It's going to be how many people are there to see me off who I had a positive effect on, or who loved me,
Right.
And he had a big funeral. I would hope that no time soon,
Right.
soon.
Right.
But I think that's kind of a loftier goal than material wealth and
psychic medium John Edward, who I've followed a lot since my father passed away on Valentine's of 2013, and he used to have a show on TV years ago called Crossing Over. And I know a lot of people don't believe in that, but I fully believe in it with people like him. There's a lot of phony ones, but I've had some readings over the last 9 years that there's things that were said to me that there is no way they would have known, because it wasn't on social media. It wasn't anywhere out there, and that they nailed. So one thing that John Edwards says is, he says, our loved ones don't miss us because they have us. They're around us all the time. We miss them because we don't have them, but they don't miss us because they have us. And so I know that your dad and my dad, they're around us all the time.
Yeah, I heard you say that on one of your previous podcasts. Yeah, it's. Right. I'd like to think there's something there. I really would. Yep. I really would.
Every year on Halloween, you take off from work, and your cousin Vincent from Brooklyn comes and fills in for you. You said he's so gangster that he actually was once a bodyguard for Yo Gotti and John Gotti. So tell us about your relationship with your cousin Vincent. Are you guys close?
uh, let's just say maybe an alter ego of sorts. You know, my goal is, Halloween. I never participated. Thought this is silly. I quit dressing up when I was a kid, and
Sure.
and then one time I thought, this is I like to entertain people. I like to sit in with Jerry Finney and my musician friends and whatever. And what came over me, I don't know, but I've always I wanted to come up with something, and I wanted to play it out completely. Maybe he's an alter ego. He's definitely a jerk. He definitely doesn't give a damn about anything except himself. And the fun part was, I get to the lunchbox at 4 a.m, when I was doing all the catering, and I would have reps even call me. They knew I'd get there at 4. They're up early too.
Wow.
So I would do Vincent, the character. I would do him from 4 a.m. to the time I walked out of that place. And then of course, when I met my wife and my son, we would go out in character as well. That we would dress up, and I would stay as Vincent, and we would whatever pizza joint we went to, I would still be Vincent. It's just fun. The customers loved it, and we did it. I did it so many years that it came to be an expectation.
Right.
If they weren't hungry, they'd want to come by and say hi, or if they had other lunch plans. We just want to come by and see Vincent. So
that's funny.
That kind of stuff I miss, man. I enjoy entertaining. I enjoy making people happy, and that made me happy. I mean, that it was just. He had a cigar. I wish I had a photo. A silly suit, cigar, awful glasses, and just I would answer the phone. Hey, Buckley's lunchbox. Hey, is this Buckley's lunchbox?
That's awesome.
It's just a way to get out of my little myopia, I guess, and have some fun. So we're still dressing up. Just because I'm not there, we're still dressing up.
That's cool. A quote of yours that I absolutely love. You said, "I will never give up on humanity." What does that mean to you?
If we're going to do this without being political, because I know we don't do politics here.
Right.
I'm very frustrated, especially on a local level, with and a national level too, with how it just seems like there's so much evil in the world, and it seems like a constant battle. And from all the stories that you're smart, you no longer see about abuse, be it human trafficking, animal abuse, slavery definitely exists still today. Let's not sugarcoat it.
Right.
That America is the bad country or whatever. But how you go about your own day and how you interact with people. I do think that the universe doesn't really care about me, but the people that I interact with, we're nothing here. But the people I meet and try to interact with, when I'm running every day, I say hi. I don't care if you're the garbage man, the neighbor. I run 7 miles every day. You're going to get a, hey, how you doing? And I've made more friends that way and met more nice people just by just a tiny little smidgen of trying to spread some kind of love for fellow man, some kind of acknowledgement that, hey, doing it down here at the beach right now. That path is packed with folks. And now here's me. Hey, I believe those little things can move mountains if everybody would just make that choice to participate and to try. You're not going to change cultures overnight. We've seen that in our town. It's very difficult. Big ship to turn. Hopefully we can turn it. But little things to me, I think can, like I said, they can move mountains if enough people cared enough to just be kind. The motto in my restaurant, the sign in my restaurant says, serve with kindness empathy and gratitude. That's how you should serve your whole life. That's how I learned how to live. It just took me a while, you know. Be
Right.
kind, be empathetic. We all go through shit every day, you know. We all have good and bad days and problems, and gratitude. And most days I wake up freaking grateful for what I do have, for my lovely family that I'm undeserving of sometimes. It's I don't know. I'm just glad that I had that epiphany, and if somebody else out there doesn't feel that way, I hope they live to feel it, because it's life changing in the best way.
Definitely. You know, you've talked about there's 3 reasons why, with, you know, all the things that have gone on in the world, why you've never left Facebook. You said one is that, you know, your friendships and old and new to maintain. And I think second is, you know, funny photos and memes, you know, from people and everything for you to laugh at and to enjoy. And thirdly, and most importantly to me, is dogs. And you
Yeah.
and I share that, our love of dogs.
Oh
You
yeah.
know, it's
Yeah.
obviously apparent. You know, they're so much more than little 4-legged fur creatures. To me, they're little humans, and they
Yeah.
make such a huge impact on our lives. How have dogs changed your life?
Man, again, so I'm sure you followed the life and times of my lab chow mutt Sam,
Yeah.
uh, who came across in Greenville, Mississippi, in a ditch. He had a sister, and my cousins who lived down there took the sister, and I brought him home to Memphis to find him a home. Lo and behold, between Greenville and Memphis, with him in my lap the whole way home as a little puppy, I fell in love with him, of course, and we were together 18 years.
Wow.
That's longer than a lot of marriages.
And
So
especially for that size dog.
I'm telling you, man,
Amazing.
I can't explain it, but even up until the day he passed, which was New Year's Day, not this past, but before the last one, and I knew he wasn't doing well. The vet was closed. He came inside, laid on the couch. I got him up on the couch on me, and he expired right there in my lap. But I tell you what, he was better. Probably, I've never been to a therapist, but I'm going to tell you, in the lowest points of my life, he was just there. It's like he knew. I mean, I talk about the eyes of a human, and I know that's probably cliche for a lot of people, but he was my best friend for 18 years, and I was his, and we did it all together. Late time and you know, dog park and whatever, you name it. But he was just so, we knew each other. We were so in tune to each other. And yeah, they're yeah, what can I say, man? There's enough, talking about dreaming about my dad. I still dream about my Sam. I mean, 18 years that's longer than a lot of things last.
You nailed it right there when you talked about they're better. You know, I have a great therapist, but they're better than any therapist. You know, a few years ago when I had some health struggles and almost died from, you know, pulmonary embolisms, and I've mentioned this on a podcast before and on Facebook, that it got to the point to where, I mean, I was so out of it and everything. I remember looking around the room, had a bottle of pills next to me a few times, but looking at them made me not make any bad choices. I looked at them and I said, you know, I owe it to them to be here all the way until the end. I owe it to them. They've gotten me through so much.
Yeah, he has been my reason many times not to do anything detrimental to myself, or even some behavior that was not necessarily that, but you know, I always had a responsibility. I got to be home to be with my buddy. I got to be home to take care of him. I can't make this decision tonight. I got to, you know, and yeah. And then in darker days, same thing. He was my reason to make the right choices. Yeah.
Him passing in your lap and how that happened. He wanted to be right where he was supposed to be with his dad.
I like to think so. I feel like I got, because I mean, God knows my wife and stepson, I call him my son. We've been together since he was 6. He's 17, be 18 soon. I feel like we all felt very fortunate that the vet was closed on New Year's Day, and that's how that went down. Because I mean, he's 18. It's obvious that he was losing his sight, and he was struggling. And yeah, so call it a blessing, call it what you will, but that couldn't have gone in any more peaceful way.
Absolutely.
No, it couldn't.
You and Ken have so many. Go ahead.
An hour.
What?
I think I petted him for about an hour after he expired. But anyway, I'll say this: I feel empathy for you because I know how much yours mean to you, and that's the hardest part about having one. Is
it's the worst.
Yeah, it's those. Spent a lot of money on Sam. He had multiple cancer multiple times. Whatever. I would do it. I'd spend double. Not that, but when that last breath, it's just, yeah. So only because I know how you feel.
Yeah. Mine are my biggest expense, and I have no problem with it. And, I remember several years ago, one of my dogs, I have 3 miniature schnauzers, Georgie had to have surgery. He had to have surgery to have some stones removed from his stomach because he was trying to go to the bathroom and it wouldn't come out. And I rushed him to the vet, and they said, okay, it's going to be $1,000 for the surgery. Do you want to do it? And I was like, do I want to do it? I mean, what? Yeah. Are you kidding me? Right. Of course. If it had been 5,000, I would have done it. I mean, right. Yeah. That you would do anything. And that's what I do. I mean, I brush my dog's teeth twice a day. I mean, anything that I can do and the supplements that I give them to make them live as long as they can, because like I said, I feel like I owe it to them.
I'm with you. I couldn't say no. I needed him in my life for as long until the point where I thought that his life had no more, that he was hurting more than, or when there was no quality of life. And I knew that was coming. I knew that was coming. I owed it to him to. If I would have had to, it would have been the hardest thing I would have ever done. And so that's why I'm so grateful that he just passed.
Yeah, absolutely. Very peacefully. Going back to Buckley's for a second, you and Ken have, so many job titles at Buckley's. You've talked about these, that you bus tables, clean bathrooms, you host, you mop floors, you empty trash cans, you're doorman, operations, accounting, sales, management, training, menu development. But to me, the most important title that you have that you mentioned is that being a general cheerleader to your team. How important has that been to the success of your team at Buckley's?
Man, I mean, it goes a long way to, you're going to have to critique. You're going to have demands. You can do it. You can do it a few ways. You can do it in a positive way and hope they respond. You don't want to do it in a negative way if you don't have to. But sometimes, you owe it to the business to make sure that you do the right thing and you teach them to do the right thing. You owe it to the customer the same. You owe it to the employee to help them improve, teach them. Like I said, we're always learning. I'm still learning.
Right.
You owe it to the success of the business. You owe it to yourself to not tolerate bad behavior. And you owe it to yourself to make sure that everybody there grows and learns and tries to get better every day. And your customers, your clients see that too, but you got to have high expectations. Ideally you want to get there in the best, most positive way possible.
Right.
And sometimes you got to just cut bait and say, this person is untrainable. This person refuses to do what's asked or told. It doesn't happen often, but sometimes you just got to realize that this person's not a fit for your environment, your family. I mean, a lot of these guys are family. Some of them, like I said, some of them have been with me for 20 years. I mean, and they're going to let you know if the new person is not cut from the same cloth. You're going to figure out 2 or 3 shifts that, hey, we made a bad hire. We made a bad decision. And hey, in 30 years of doing this, I've made plenty of bad decisions. some good ones too. We both have. We it's you just scraping and clawing every day to try to do the right thing and to do right by your employees and your guests and the business and yourself. Absolutely.
Fioranelli Farm, excuse me, on Rich Road. has a lot of special memories for you. You lived there, I believe, for about 17 years. Tell
Yes.
the audience a little bit about it and what made it so special to you, your friends, and your dogs.
Uh, well, we bought the house when my first marriage, and my sister actually found the house, and I fell in love with it. And it was just a big ranch house surrounding the pool, and there's about an acre of. It's a great neighborhood, but we had some of the. So I'm a family of musicians, some better than others. I'm a pretty average drummer, pretty average piano player, or worse. I love to sing. All my siblings sing or play an instrument or both. And then, of course, I've got a lot of friends in the music business locally. As you know, Jerry Finney, Bryce Drury, the late Andy Guy, who I miss him every day. Frank Stewart, who's down in Destin now, but comes to play with us. So we had, anytime a sibling had a special surprise, a special party, birthday party, the surprise party was held at the Fioranelli farm. It was a perfect place to set up a stage right by the pool. It would just be just throngs of people. People would bring their instruments. It's just, people from all walks of life, friend to friend to friend. You're all welcome. Plenty of room in the backyard. And we threw some of the best parties, most memorable parties. And then, of course, for the dogs, my God, they had carte blanche. I mean, freedom to roam. And when I got married, we did move. We both sold our homes and bought a house together, which we are loving. But I tell you that being in the same neighborhood for 16 years, I miss the neighbors. In fact, this is OCD as hell, but most of me is OCD as hell. I still drive to my old neighborhood. You know the Mosses, Larry and Judy.
Yeah.
They so graciously let me park at their house. They have 3 houses in vacant. They let me park at their old house, and I run my same 7-mile route from my old neighborhood so that I can still say hi to the neighbors and still see everybody that I've gotten to know. I mean, I've watched the kids on my route used to call me the weatherman, because they said no matter what the weather was, there he goes, what a fool. And I've watched these same kids grow up, get married, and have their own kids, and it's just what a neat life, what a fortunate, neat life I've been able to. But yeah, so maybe OCD is a good thing.
Yeah, in this case, definitely. Speaking of music, I know that you became a big fan of Jude Cole back in 1989.
My Facebook friend.
Yeah. Many people probably don't know that his business partner in his music label, Ironworks, is actually actor Kiefer Sutherland. Some people don't know that. Why is his music so special to you?
It's like I told him, how I ran across him on Facebook is beyond me. So I messaged him. I'm like, look, I'm a fanboy. I friended him on Facebook and said, hey, a lot of your music is the soundtrack of my life. And so, and he got right back with me. He's like, happy to have a friendship or whatever. And I was like, oh my God, this is like,
wow,
this is big. This is huge. I'm fan geeking to my wife, who also loves his music. Who I kind of feel like I introduced her to it, except for he had some great hits. But yeah, I told him, I said, it's the soundtrack of my life. A lot of your songs are, and he's got a lot of songs that I relate to that are they're beautiful, but they're also a little dark, and they're just human. And he just a lot of them make you feel, they humanize you. Yeah, I'm a huge fan. I would, if I could afford it, I'd have him come play Memphis.
Right.
Yeah, thoroughly enjoy his music. Just there's a few artists that really hit me. The Jude Cole, Neil Finn, Crowded House. They're my Beatles. Collective Soul. There's quite a few really. But anyway, yeah, Jude Cole. I can call him Jude now, I guess, since we're friends.
Right. Absolutely. You talking about, friendships, you've developed so many special friendships and relationships in your lifetime. Too many of them, unfortunately, as we know, have passed away. You talk about Big Mike. He was like a brother to you. He was a comedian. He could have been a comedian. He had an enormous heart, sweet soul. You guys had big old bear hugs.
Yeah.
Your friend Leanne I get Casper.
Yeah.
That you
Yes.
guys were
Yeah. Ray
thick,
Casper.
yeah, thick as thieves. You were always laughing, having a great time. You said that she lit up any room that she walked into. And back in
Yeah.
2012, when you were going through a really dark period, she was there for you and helped you get through it. You said she never
Yes.
complained, spoke ill of anyone that you knew about. Those are some really special qualities to have. Tell us a little bit about those relationships with the two of them.
Um, Big Mike and I had a working relationship for probably 15 years. But when you work day in and day out with the guy who kind of becomes your right hand, you have your issues, you have your this and that, just like any friendship. And
Sure.
then of course couple that with employer relationship. But he was so much like family. And he COVID didn't get him as his heart. His heart is what took Mike way too young. But more often than not, he just made a great working environment. He really cared about what came out of that kitchen, and he really cared about his fellow man. He cared about him, and of course now he's African American. We would have many long conversations, regarding when horrible things would happen to good people.
Sure.
Uh, yeah, I mean, we cried in each other's arms before. He's a big old boy. Big guy. But yeah, still miss him. Still think about him all the time. Leanne, I will say this: I am so fortunate that for some people that count their friends on one hand, their best friends. I'm very lucky because she's just one of a throng. Not enough fingers and toes for all the people that I love and love the friendship, and because consider them family more so than some of my own family. So Leanne, like I said, she's fortunate. I met her through my best friend Russ Madry, who
Mm-hmm.
I did not know her in high school, but yeah, just the most generous, kind, compassionate, and she fought cancer for 20 years off and on, and just a joy to be around. Like most of my friends. I'm just really, really lucky, and just not so in that she was taken way too early. Just like so many people that you and I know. It's like my dad, Jarman. I can look.
Yeah.
Not enough toes to list all those either. But I came in touch with death very young. My little cousin was 14. He was on the back of a three-wheeler. So that was my introduction to how fleeting life can be, and plenty more since then. So hey, all you can do is grow from it, because you ain't coming back.
You also lost, I believe at the beginning of last year, your partner, Ken, his wife, Lisa Dick, passed away last year at the young age of 53 of brain cancer. I don't believe in coincidences at all, Jeff. And I know that you said that Lisa and your father shared the same birthday, January 11th. They also both passed away at the age of 53. As I said, no coincidences there for people that you described as two beautiful and irreplaceable souls. You also said that Lisa had the most vibrant and colorful soul that you ever had the pleasure of knowing. Y'all created at your house the Stairway to Heaven to honor her. Tell us a little about Lisa and the Stairway to Heaven.
We were also fortunate to have Lisa. And they met and married right when we were building that restaurant. I mean, it was like it was. Of course, they had been friends, so we already knew each other. But all that happened so quickly. It's just what a heart, what a soul, and God, all these people we're talking about are taken so young. I may live to be 100. Jeez. So her art. She started her art at the Lunchbox, her art classes. She brought the whole paint party thing to Memphis. And she would, she starts with a blank canvas. She's got the class. They're all painting and drinking wine or whatever. And so at the end of the class, she'd leave her painting and just say, hey, with a note on it, hey, this is for you if you want it. So eventually, I end up with probably 50 paintings hanging at the Fioranelli farm. And then she passed, sadly. It's just, God just love her. Still, it's tough. It's only been, it was what, a year ago, March. Um, so in the house, there's this little spiral staircase, and it's gray walls. You walk in there and you're like, what were these people thinking? What is this? And I thought, my God, I got the idea. This is what I'm going to do. The first thing I did in that house was I took all of her paintings and mounted them all up through the second floor, from the first floor to the second. And I just say, this is not that you'll ever be forgotten, but just know that this is our tribute to you, and all the good that you were is definitely reflected on these walls in this house. You know, so much more about paint, believe me,
Right.
than painting. But just the sweetest soul, kindest soul. You know, not unlike Leanne. They were great friends too, because they were peas in a pod.
Right.
Love to cook, love to entertain, love to, you know, always positive. Never a bad word to say. And so missed. But yeah, that's way on my way to my bedroom every day. They're right there, and just a little general reminder.
Yeah, my mom actually has I think the only painting that I know of that my mom ever had made. Lisa made it for her, and my mom still has it in her den behind the couch on the wall. It's a big painting of the family and our schnauzer that we had for several years. You know, speaking of dogs again, Spencer, that we had a white schnauzer. And that, you know, the family and the dog in that painting, it's just a special painting. I mean, many pictures that she's taken down over the years that are in boxes, but that one's always going to stay up.
Yeah. And, you know, it's great because, you know, Memphis is kind of a small town, and your stories, like many others, I hear it all the time too. Hey, we've got a Lisa Dick. We've got
Sure.
Did all that commission work for people. You know, here's us at the beach. Here's us at the lake. You know, here, you know, yeah. Her art, her work. That's just one of her legacy that's going to live on. I mean, that's just beautiful. I mean, God, could we all be so lucky to leave that kind of legacy?
Absolutely. We talked, you know, you talked a lot about your running, and to run 7 miles a day. I mean, the most when I was younger in my 20s, I was running 5 miles a day. And I remember what it did to my shins and my knees and everything after doing it for a couple of years. But to do 7 miles a day is just amazing. But, you know, the running is just one aspect. You talk about how running changed your life. I think that you actually, and you mentioned this a little bit earlier, not only did running change your life, it also changed the lives of people on your running path that you went on. You met wonderful people such as Bert Bornblum, and developed a friendship with him. You know, he came over, you know, survived, you know, Nazi Germany. I think he came over from Poland, and you said he only had like $5 with him when he got here. And look at the amazing thing that man did with having the school and everything else that he did in the community. You know, that special friendship you mentioned about, you know, where the kid named you superhero weatherman, because, you know, come any kind of weather, you are out there running. You know, to be that kind of a person, to have that kind of an impact, you know, it's just unbelievable. I think you said you chose the path you run many years ago, and they need me as much as I need them. And that obviously is super true. And that still is to this day, isn't it?
I'd like to think so. Bert Bornblum's story is just incredible to me. And he was such a unassuming, self-effacing gentleman. And we struck up a conversation, and then we got to where we were talking. You know, I'd stop and walk with him. And when I learned his whole story, it just floored me. You know, that's why I wrote about him. What a God, just an amazing individual. A hell of a story. You should look him up if for you folks. And it was great because I got a lot of friends, I have a lot of Jewish friends, and a lot of them respond on Facebook. I'll tell you what, Facebook can really make a big community smaller, and it can really make it in a great way. That's another way I make tons of friends, you know. But yeah, so many people on my route, and that route was just a fluke. It started, I couldn't walk around the block without, you know, I thought I was going to have a heart attack. And then Jerry Finney, I got to credit him because we would start exercising together. And eventually he said, look, you're walking fast. Just jog a little bit. So I'm like, oh my God, I just jogged. I never really see myself ever running, you know, even when I was a skinny kid, you know. when I was 2. And then I started running with my neighbor, a guy named Jim Cole, who when I lived on Greenway. And eventually he had me going 3 to 4, 4 to 5, and then eventually this route that I would go on to run indefinitely, hopefully a few more years. Let's hope. But yeah, I've made so many friends and so many contacts. And it's great when, I'm on vacation right now, and I'll get back, and Thursday I'll go run, and I will, sometime in the next few weeks, I will have people say, "Hey, I've been worried about you. You okay?"
Right.
Because I'm such a creature of habit. And they're like, "Where you been? What's going on?" I'm worried about you. And I feel that way about so many of the folks on my route. And I'm watching, much as I'm watching the kids grow up, I'm also losing a lot of the old folks. And it's one right now who I've got real close to in 20 years to this family. And that's coming, but it's not the first time, but
right.
It's being able to go through this life and the cycles of it with so many people. It's a good thing, and sometimes it's a shitty thing, but be there for them, that's all you can be. There are, a lot of them are also customers, so we talk and yeah, what a life.
You also have a really funny story that happened when you were jogging down Tuckahoe and a little white minivan pulled up beside you, sort of creeping up on you. Tell us a little bit about that story.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's great. So I'm jogging down. I got my AirPods in. I'm just trotting along, and this white van, I see out of the corner of my eye, out of my peripheral, I see this van slowing down. I'm like, oh, what's going on here? What's the deal? And I got a little freaked out. I'm like, this is creepy. And they come on by me, and the windows roll down, and they're blaring "Eye of the Tiger." And I forgot what the gesture was, but they were, giving me a thumbs up. Yeah, so it was awesome. It was awesome. Just one of those little moments of greatness. Forget.
You had to have cracked up. That's had to be so funny.
I was like,
that's awesome.
Oh man.
You're really a very giving person. You've been involved with community helpers weekly at Bunton Elementary, just spending you have no problem just spending time talking to a stranger. And you've done that, obviously, your running route and in many places that you've gone. One of your friends, Kevin Montgomery, shared a story about you. He said he talked about how you never know when you're going to make a difference in somebody's life, and that his uncle and dad were coming up to the lunchbox to meet, and his uncle got there a little bit early and must have been standing by himself. And you went over and started talking to him. And he said his uncle had been going through some really difficult times lately. And just, you made such a difference in his day, just going up and having a genuine conversation with him. I'm sure there's many other stories like that over 28 years. Your genuine love and caring for people. I mean, it's so obvious. It just comes shining through. I mean, you're a positive light in unfortunately a negative world. I don't really have a question here. I just sort of wanted to share that with the audience. I know that you probably definitely agree with me that you do never know the difference that you can make in someone's life just spending a few moments with them.
Absolutely, man. That's for sure. And I'm embarrassed by your praise. I'll say that first. I've always maintained that true charity should be anonymous. There's no reason to blow your horn there's no reason to tell me you rescued a dog. I just don't even get that whole thing. My rescue, whatever. And there's no reason to virtue signal when you do something good for somebody, when you're writing checks or when you're donating or whatever. But when it comes to personal interaction, just one-on-one, that's free. All it costs you is time. And if you get something out of it, you're invested. It didn't cost you a damn thing, and fortunately, I'm just somebody who likes to live and learn and do my best to be a light when I can be a light. Everybody's got a story. the elderly, my goodness, they got stories and they need to be told. They need an ear. Of course, I'll talk to or listen to a wall, but yeah, that's not even charity. That's its own reward.
Right.
Its own reward.
Little did you know at the time, 47 years ago and a few days ago, how the day, July 22nd, 1975 would change the entire course of your life. You talk about it, an event unbeknownst to a 7-year-old me. You just come through a very difficult 3 years and hard chapter in your life. And you finally said you had found peace in being alone. And then it happened. You met Emily because you were ready at that point in time for it to happen. You call her the love of your life. You also talk about you met her son, Jacob. He was just 6 years old at the time. You said when you guys met, you noticed talent, strength, and his heart and what a loving soul that he had. You said, "You are mine." I believe that, in your head, he is yours, even though he's your stepson. Like you said, he's really your son. Of Emily, you said, only your soul shines brighter than your eyes and your smile. You said, being in the 53rd year of your life, you said, quote, I feel a peace the likes of which I've never ever known. That's powerful. You say that Emily is always, yeah, sorry, she's the most beautiful person in the room. Tell us about Emily and Jacob.
So one of my best friends was marrying one of her best friends, Hugh Mallory and Lisa Chow. And Jerry and I had been signed on to play the rehearsal dinner, come do an acoustic set for the rehearsal dinner. So I was like, well, heck yeah, this is going to be awesome. So we show up and we set up, and I look up, and there's just the most beautiful girl I've ever seen ever. And those blue eyes and that wet hair. She was always hurried. She was always behind. And I asked Jerry's girlfriend Lucy. I said, "Hey, do you know who that is?" Or whatever, but so on and so forth. I'll try to keep this short. So anyway,
you're fine.
We end up meeting, and turns out that Lucy and Emily were in the same sorority at Ole Miss at different times, and so they talked about it. And Lucy really went to work for me, and pretty much then we went to the wedding the next day and met up there, and I asked her if I could. I was holding a piece of wedding cake, and I said, "Can I buy you a glass? Can I get you a glass of wine?" She goes, "No, but if you're not going to eat that icing, I'll have a bite of that." Anyway, so she pretty much she was a single mom, really struggling. She worked full time, raising Jacob, and I think she was a little taken aback by me for whatever. I should let her tell you that story. But eventually, like maybe a couple months later, we finally met for a margarita, and then maybe 6 weeks later, I finally got a second date. Went to Live at the Garden. But anyway, the moment I saw her, what how it is. It's lightning struck twice, I guess. But for the second time, for the better, for sure. And we dated, and like I said, single mom. I feel like we've kind of raised Jacob together. Of course, her parents have been invaluable. They're a second set of parents for sure. And yeah, he was on the cusp of 6, and now he's on the cusp of 18. And we both early on said, our first date, we're like, just so you know, I'm never getting married again. It was a disaster, blah, blah, blah. We both agreed that, well, a couple years into it, we're kind of like, she's like, well, this 2-house thing. But anyway, somehow or another, I guess COVID was good for me too, because it was kind of a wake up call. I'm like, what am I doing? Not making this commitment. I mean, I don't want to be with anybody else. I love her more than my own life. And I asked her to marry me, and so it goes. And I more cliches. You marry best friend. Well, I married the most beautiful girl in the room every time, and my best friend, and with a soul like none I've ever known. So except for maybe the friends I admire, Leanne, Lisa, among others. And I was hoping she was going to dance by here in a minute, but I guess she went down to the beach.
I'd rather be on the beach too. So.
She offered, and then I get a package deal. I got Jacob, and he's his own little interesting dynamo. And I don't always succeed, but I'm doing the best I can to try to be a dad, and not ever having any kids of my own. I always tell people I never had time. I had 50 kids between 2 restaurants that I was trying to raise, but I wouldn't change a thing. And I tell everybody, timing is everything. If we'd have gotten married 5, 6 years ago, who knows what, it's just timing is it. And I'm assured that we have a commitment that will last until one of us expires.
What a great story.
She's something else, man. And she's so patient and tolerant. I'm not always easy.
What are the most important lessons you've learned in life?
I think that would have to go back to when I had that epiphany of, when I hit around 40 and I quit being mad and living in the past, and I quit being a selfish jerk to a lot of that I had been to a lot of people. I say, show me the man who tells you he has no regrets, and I'll show you a liar, because there's no way, and whatever changed in me, I got to say, Emily definitely had a profound, I was turning a corner, but gosh, when I met her, I mean, you just want to, I just went from being selfish to doing my best every day to be selfless if I can be. I'm not perfect by any stretch. In fact, I'm worse than that. I'm super flawed. But I definitely learned to put other people before me, and her and her son are prime example. And partnerships and marriage too. I've always tried to put my business partners' needs before mine as well. And a lot of and sometimes in my employees, and sometimes it's to your own detriment. Like we talked earlier, sometimes you got sleepless nights, and sometimes you go home and you go, God, but I wouldn't change any of that. I think I don't know what woke me up, but something did, thank God. And the rest of my life going forward is going to be like it is right now, as long as I can have it happen.
Maybe someone came to you in your dream and will help to wake you up.
I totally buy that. I've had conversations that are not rehash of when I was a child. I'll say that. I've had conversations that are vivid, that I wake up and go, oh my God, and believe what you want to believe what you don't, or don't believe what you don't. I don't know. I'm not sure about where I am spiritually, but I know that, like I said, I've had conversations that were not rehashes when I was 12 years old, or 20.
Yeah.
There's something there. There's something that ties us together.
Absolutely.
Yeah. The universe is too big, and like I said, I'm nothing to the universe, but I'm going to get the most out of it that I can while I'm here, and give the most I can while I'm here.
Yeah, you and I have known each other a really long time, maybe even longer than you remember. I'm not sure you remember. We met in 1988 at the Pike House. It was Rush. I was with a friend of mine named Billy Butcher, and we got into the car. It was me and you and Billy Butcher and Lumpy, David Lunsford. And we were going down to the Hollywood Cafe in Tunica when Tunica was nothing. It was just, going out 61 and going through there, and there was just nothing there until you got basically the Hollywood Cafe. And I think, that whole Rush crowd and everything, we took over that place that night. It was just a lot of fun. And it's something I've never forgotten. you've always been really nice to me. In any situation in the restaurant. I mean, you're a nice guy in general, but you've always been really nice to me, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate that.
I gotta tell you, I feel like first of all, thanks. Second of all, you and I are kindred spirits in so many ways, because we've been through so much of the same shit. Not that everybody doesn't have their stuff, but
right.
And yeah, and I first remember you when you drive by the Pike House in that Chevy, blaring the radio, and then eventually we met in person. And,
right.
And obviously, you have followed me closely, and I follow you closely. You have a very profound impact on folks, and I'll say I told you I binged your podcast in 2 days, and I'm amazed by the caliber of individuals that, I mean, up to today, that is the caliber of individuals that you can call your friends and that have been on. I gotta say, Greg Graber, absolutely love Greg Graber.
Super guy.
Oh my God. And I've used a lot of his methods in my life too, just so you know. Met him 10 years ago through Leanne Ray Casper. And but yeah, it speaks volumes to you. And I love you, man. I care about you, and I enjoy watching your story, and I love seeing your struggles and how you overcome them. It's very inspiring, and I love your dad, and I've never met him.
Thank you. That means a lot to me, and so I really appreciate you coming on today. We'll have to do this again sometime down the road in the future again, because I really enjoyed talking to you. This is a great conversation.
Love to, man. I was nervous. This was a lot of fun, and thank you for letting me pour out some of myself. I really appreciate that. It's very kind. Love you, man.
Love you too. Go enjoy the beach.
All right. You take care.
You too. Thanks. Bye-bye.